One character, one story, but 10 solo TTRPG creators. Welcome, my friends, to the Solo Relay 2026. Let's break it down, y'all. Well, hi, hello, everybody. My name is Turk. Welcome back to the TheGrouchCouch. Around here, we do all different kinds of weird TTRPG things. But yes, my friends, today we are starting the Solo Relay of 2026. I know you're like, Turk, what's that? Me and 9 other TTRPG creators are collaborating on one single story. The basic idea is this. We all take the same character in the same world on the same mission. And I start off the episode playing whatever system I want, and then I pass it off to the next person. This next person then takes the story and the character using whatever system they want, and they play a full episode, put it up on their channel, and then pass it off to the next person. And we continue that for a full 10 episodes to make a nice little short little mini campaign with this character. Each creator is completely free to use whatever system or solo mechanics or roll charts that they want, whatever they're the most comfortable with. The idea here is to be able to showcase world of solo TTRPGs and how you can use them differently, from different perspectives and different imaginations and different minds, but following the same character. It's kind of a fun idea to showcase how everyone plays differently. Now, there is a full list of creators, which I'll put up on screen now so you can see who is doing what, and I do believe it is in the actual order of the episodes. There will be a link down in the description to each one of these creators and a link to the playlist so you can save the playlist and follow it through as it continues to develop. This was a crazy idea that I had, and if it goes well with your guys' support, hopefully we can add some more creators onto this list and we can run it back again next year if it goes well. So, fingers crossed. And I want to give a big thank you to all the folks for being willing to join me on this weird experiment that I just came up with. The whole process so far has been awesome, coming up with everything. So big shout outs to all them for just being cool folks. And it's honestly great for all of us to be in a group chat now together because we can ask each other advice and other kinds of fun stuff. It's just cool. Now, this year, there are not very many rules to what we are doing. The only rule is that we're in some kind of general fantasy game. We have to play with this character and we have to continue moving the story forward. That's pretty much it. So don't expect anyone to drop our character into cyberpunk randomly. We're going to be in a fantasy world. If you're following along as videos are releasing, there should be a new episode about every 7 to 10 days, about every week. My episode's going up here on a Friday, so around next Friday, the next person should be releasing a video. And I do believe that that is Soloist Venture, so make sure to get over there and get a subscribe on their channel so you can be prepared for it. Let's get into our character. So this character was completely rolled up using a couple different roll chart tables. Mostly it was from Table Fables and from Roll and Play, the Game Master's Toolkit, but this character was completely randomly generated, and then there were a couple of things that were randomly generated and then we all voted on, much like the character's name. And so I don't have to bother you with our Google Sheet that we've all been working on. I'm actually just gonna tell you what it is, all right? Our character is an elderly male elf. Their alignment is true neutral. Their main class is a druid, but whatever system each person decides to play in, the closest thing that they can find to druid is totally going to work. Our character is clever and indulgent, but they have a fear of the dark, and the local noble in the city that they're at is actually mad at them. Some other motives for our character is that they actually love cooking, preparing, and eating all different kinds of food, and the current situation that they're in, they were actually asked to be a part of a group by their mentor, which we'll get into in a minute. Our character doesn't have much family, like his parents. Their parents are both deceased, but they do have a bunch of different siblings, wherever they might be, up to the roll of the dice, and if anyone else wants to include that. But they did grow up in a modest house in the city before their parents passed away, and they were apprenticed by someone, obviously, because their mentors asked them to be a part of this group that we're going to get into. Our character is very short for an elf, and they're kind of stocky. They've got gray eyes and a hooked nose, and they've got blonde hair. They do have an animal skull tattoo on their forearm. Again, these things were randomly rolled up, and they do actually have burn scar circles around their neck from maybe some trouble they had gotten into in the past. Now, one thing that should be noted is that some of the things about our character, I might go into deep, I might not go into deep. If I don't add any details to any kind of parts of this character, the next person who plays is totally free to do so, right? But we're all going to try to stay canon as to whatever happens in each one of our episodes. So for right now, a lot of our setting and our character are real general, and that was done purposefully so we can all develop as we play and discover as we play. But hey, I should say we voted on it, and our character's name is Jet Zinlan, which I'll show you in a second. So here we are at the table camera, and I'm going to now go over what I'm going to be using in today's episode. Of course, any chance that I ever get on this channel to be able to use and play ICRPG, I absolutely will, because it's one of my favorites. And I figured I'm going to be doing a lot of setup here in my first episode, so I figured I might be able to use just one of my favorite here systems. Yeah, very cool. So we actually have Jet Zinland's character sheet all made up in perfect right here. But one of the important things I also have here are the target number cards. In ICRPG, you're always rolling against a target number. So we're always going to know exactly what that number is, because we're going to shuffle these up and throw them down on the table. It gives me a way to also introduce a little bit of randomness, so I don't have to worry about being difficult or too easy on myself. Whenever we're in a scene, I can roll and see what our target number is for that scene. That's an 18. That's what we're going to have to beat. For anybody else who's interested in these cards, of course, there's always links down in the description, but all I did was print these on a piece of paper and I cut them. And then I actually, to make them feel like real cards, put them in sleeves with magic cards in there as well. Pretty simple stuff. I like to teach while I play, best that I can, to hope that you might get into a solo TTRPG yourself, right? So those are our target cards right there. And we're going to be using ICRPG, and this system is really simple and really straightforward. I'll explain as we play if you're not familiar with it. But it uses the regular fantasy kind of stats and stuff, but it is pretty much item focused, right? But here's Jet Zinland, the elf, right? In this system, the closest thing to druid was priest, so he's actually a druid priest. We're going to get into our story here in a second, but these are his items. He does have a green staff that actually gives him 3 wisdom spells. These spells are important. He has Animal Friend, Dire Form, so he can transform into an animal, which I think all of us are going to be transforming him into different animals if we possibly can. And he also has Farseer, so he can use awareness to access the senses of any other person that he has met before. I kind of picked this because I think he's going to be able to use Farseer on animals. So he'll be able to see into the eyes of like a rat as it runs through the city, be able to see what's going on, right? Because he is kind of a druid. But more importantly, this character did grow up in the streets of this city. He's kind of a street rat kind of character. So keep that in mind. Now, whenever you play or whenever I play, my suggestion is to always get your main system, and then you're going to get some kind of solo TTRPG mechanic or book or something like that. The most popular one is Mythic, so that's actually what we're going to be using today. This here is our Mythic little booklet. Now, this is my one-page Mythic that I actually put together and photoshopped myself. It's got our basic discovery meanings on here for quick ones. It's also got our random event focus table, our threads list. It has a nice little hazard focus on there, and then my solo game loop that I kind of came up with and what I always use. Scene, task, action, result, and transition. So we're going to be following this today. If you want this sheet to be able to print for yourself, you could join my Discord. I think it's in there. I know it's on the Patreon, but it should be in the Discord. Now, we also have all of the Mythic tables that we can roll on as much as we possibly want to. We got all different kinds of stuff. So if we want to get more advanced than just the basic discovery meaning tables, we absolutely can. And when it comes to our chaos factor, we're not using it today. We're keeping it simple. So at any time, if we ever roll doubles on our D100, we're going to add in a random event. Lastly, if we need any kind of flavor for anything, we're going to be using Table Fables. And this just has extra little roll charts that we can fill out NPCs and learn more about them if we want to. Also, like the city that we're going to be starting in, we're going to be able to flesh it out a little bit. I'm going to leave some room for the other folks to kind of roll up stuff themselves too. So we're going to roll up as much as we can, or as much as we need. So there we have it. Mythic and ICRPG, my favorite way to play. It's also always smart to have something to take notes with. This is, I just got this recently, actually going to be my 2026 one-shot journal. And I know this technically isn't a one-shot, but it kind of is for me. So anytime I do little one-shots on the channel or anything, this is where I'm going to be taking all of my notes right here. So I'm going to take my notes so I make sure I can pass on all the important stuff to Soloist Venture and update it in our group Google Doc. Nice. All right, my friends, that is the setup. And it's time now to hop in and begin our story. Thank you so much for joining us. Let's talk a little bit about our quest that we're on and the story that we are all going to be undertaking. Jet Zinland grew up on the streets. He had a modest house in the city, but he always found himself as a little bit rebellious. Found himself caring more for about what was right and what was wrong than about the law or what people even told him to do. It wasn't long before he ran into a mentor, and this mentor taught him the ways of the streets, taught him how to better use his druidic powers. And even with this mentor, he joined a certain group of people. Now, this group of people were dedicated to reacquiring and keeping safe artifacts and magical items from all across the world. Items that might cause more harm than they are to do good, if fallen into the wrong hands. It doesn't matter if that meant stealing them from someone or maybe even threading the line. For Jet Zinlan, what mattered the most was what was right and what was wrong. And stopping others from using these items to do bad is what Jet Zinlan learned the most to do and to follow. Now, this organization also runs what they kind of consider to be a museum. They allow people to come in and look at these items and see what they are so they can see what good that they're doing for the world. And this is kind of where our story begins. You see, Jet Zinlan's a little bit older now. Big ol' older in age. He's been helping out this organization for a long time. He used to work as a shepherd during the day to make gold because this organization doesn't make very much money. Of course, no one is paying them to keep these items safe. But nowadays, he kind of just watches over these items, which again brings us to where our story begins. You see, recently, a heist was done on the museum, and a different, strange selection of items were stolen from the museum after this heist. And so now, it is up to Jet Zinlan to find these items and reacquire them and bring them back to the museum for safekeeping. That is our overarching goal, which, by the way, everybody, was voted on by the whole group, and I think it's a fantastic start. Heck yeah. So, for my future players, I want to allow them to be able to roll on things as well. And I think there's two big names that we have to decide on to be able to start, which is the name of this organization and the name of the city that we're in. And it is a fairly big, bustling fantasy city, of course. So, one of the first things we're going to roll on before we can build out our scene, because we're going to do that here in a second, I actually want to roll to see what the name of this organization is. And what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to roll on this magic item descriptions chart right here first, because this is a place that stores magical items after all. And then we're going to do names. So let's see, magic item descriptors, 61, liquid, and names. 80. Liquid Tal. T-A-L. Tal reminds me of Talon. I like the word Talon. Liquid could be any kind of liquid, but not just like a drink. It needs to be like an element. Could be like an adjective. Thinking fluid, running, molten. Molten is good. Molten Talon. That's going to be the name of this faction that keeps together magical items. All right, very good. So now we're going to build out our scene here. Now I have this chart and I like to use it. I actually put like a little coin on here so I know where I'm at. And I like to explain as I play. It's kind of the way that I do a lot of my videos in hopes that you might learn and pick up some stuff and play a little bit yourself, because solo TTRPGs are awesome. So we're going to start with our scene. Where are we? What do we notice? Who else is here? And are there any threats? In my mind, I'm already thinking that a bunch of stuff was just stolen from the museum. So there has to be some kind of a meeting that we're having with Jet Zinlan. At this point is definitely not the leader of this Molten Talon, but there has to be someone that we're going to be meeting with, like me, this leader, and possibly a bunch of other people who are a part of this faction. And are going to be doing like a breakdown of what just happened the night before and what we're going to do to find all of the items again. So I picture us in like a back room of this museum. The museum's definitely closed down for the day. They ain't letting anybody in today. Not for a little while, probably. Not until they get all their items back. So the museum is closed temporarily. So we're in this like back room. That's where we are. We're here with the leader. There aren't any other threats. I imagine it is like he's sitting behind this desk. I keep saying he. It could be a she, like a really strong woman who's like, I love a strong woman with an eye patch. So that's what I'm going to go with. We'll build out more. Maybe we'll roll on some stuff to learn more about her. But to start, strong woman with an eye patch who is leading this little meeting here. Now, to fill out the rest of the scene, I say we roll on a roll chart. And let's go on ahead and move on to our descriptor tables right here. We're just going to roll on the top one. That, my friends, is a 48. 48 is healthily. And I like to do a descriptor and an action to fill out my scene. So we're going to move over to the action meaning table here. 62 is move. Healthily move. Okay, that's already got things going in my head. That's pretty good. We're going to roll on a couple more things before we build out this scene and take our next action. And what we're going to do is we're going to roll on the name of this leader here. We've got our names chart here in Mythic. It's a 13. Brah. Shah. 77 is Shah. Shabra. Okay. Shabra doesn't sound like a human name, so already thinking that Shabra is some other kind of species. How cool would it be to add in like some kind of fantastical species? I think maybe we go with, I've been playing a lot of Dragonbane, so my first thought is to go with a duck person. I really want to do a duck person, but we're not going to do that because I don't know if duck person is going to fit in the next person's system. So limitations, right? We're going to go with a Khajiit. A female Khajiit with an eye patch. Pretty cool. Shabra. And Khajiit is like cat person. Tabaxi, whatever. All right, lastly, we want a character personality for her, just to see what's going on. That's 30. Curious. I figured she was gonna be like a hard ass, but I guess she's curious, and I'm fine with that. And I'm not going to roll out more than that because I want to leave some discovery for the other players. So we've got our scene, we've got things going on. So I get healthily move, right? Which is on my 2 words that I just got. Right away, I'm thinking move already means that they're suspecting there could be another heist. So there are other people here and they are all taking things out of the museum safely and healthily, safely, putting them into like little boxes, little cases, and they're moving them in the back. They might have like a really nice like lockup, like a storage, like a vault or something. They don't want this to happen again. They're really worried about it. So all the people are healthily, which also means to me like hastily, like fast, smart, like safely even to stay healthy, putting these things away and putting them in the back. And so that's what's happening all around us. But as we approach, I think that Shabra is sitting behind her desk, just kind of still like reading things and looking over stuff, you know, interested in everything that's going on. And as we approach, she's just curious. She's not mean to us, right? At least not at first. And she's like, Jet, it's good to see you. I'm sure you know what happened last night. And Jet's probably like, yeah, of course, I seen, I heard, I know. What are we gonna do? Well, Jet, I can use your assistance, you see. I'm still studying a lot of the new items that came in and going to need you to get out there and find them and return them with haste, please. And I think she's like, one of the other parts about moving stuff, she's probably like taking inventory of everything that has been stolen. I don't want to like put the other players in a box as to what item Jet might go after with them. So what I'm actually going to do is she's just going to say that, yeah, she's still taking stock. She doesn't know exactly what was taken or how many items were taken, but she does have a lead on the first item. And she's going to hand him like a scroll that has all the information on it. And she's going to say, follow this scroll. I'm going to need you to get out into the city and do some footwork and figure out wherever this thing came from, okay? And I think when we move on to our task here, because we built out the scene and started doing dialogue, we're actually going to move down to our task here. And what's going to happen, I think, Jet's pretty old. And I don't think Khajiit get as old as Tabaxi get as old as elves do. So she's probably younger, like she's probably promoted into this position for one reason or another. And I don't think Jet knows if he trusts her yet. So I think our first check is actually going to be an intelligence check just to see if we can see if she's got anything else going on with her. And what we're going to do before we make that check is we're actually going to shuffle up our target cards, as I said before, so we can make our target completely random, which kind of also determines a little bit more about her, seeing on how difficult this is. So we're just going to draw here. That's a 17. So we got to beat a 17. The other fun thing about ICRPG and using cards this way is if we think this roll would be easy, we can actually drop it down by 3. Like let's say it's something that Jet's really good at, we could drop it down by 3 and call it a 14. Or if we think this roll would be hard because it's something he sucks at, or there's like environmental issues going on, we could actually put it up by 3, which will make it a 20. But I think right now as it is, we're just going to call it a 17. And so Jet's going to stare at her and he's going to go like, is there anything else? Is there anything else going on? You seem flustered. At least he thinks she does. Maybe he's just saying that. So now we're going to roll. This is kind of like our perception kind of roll here just to see if we notice anything else. We're going to do it as intelligence. That's a natural 20. Is that my first skill check of this here campaign? What in heck? Now, I also like to use skill checks as kind of like yes or no oracles themselves. Depending on how well or how bad we do, it kind of also makes it an extreme yes or an extreme no. So being the fact that we got a natural 20 on this, Jet absolutely notices something. And what we're going to do is we're going to do a quick discovery meaning right here on our front page here. Another 77. That's wild. Object 15. Damaged. Object damaged. And we're moving down to result here because we did our action, so we're in result now. Object damaged. Extreme yes. I also want to mention before, I did get a 77 twice, which is doubles. I don't always do random events on doubles for discovery meanings, but on yes or no questions, if we get doubles, we do a random event. But if you want to play with doubles on discovery meaning tables as well, you absolutely can, right? I think more random events and more chaos is always good. But thinking now, I was like, I got 77 twice. The dice are like, turkey, random event. I know, moving on, okay. Object broken on an extreme yes to me can actually go in a couple of different ways. And one thing we can do is we can actually now make this a little bit easier on ourselves with object broken, which I don't always like to do, but object broken is crazy, especially since we're looking for objects. I think she leans in real close to Jet. We're gonna continue on with our scene here. We're doing results. She leans in real close and she's like, to tell you the truth, Jet, the item that you're going after, the only reason that we know for a fact that it was taken is we've actually found traces of magic leaving the museum. The item that you're after is unstable. It is broken. It must have been broken when they tried to take it. So it might already be out in the city damaging things, affecting things. So follow the traces of magic, Jet. It might lead you to it. And when you find it, it could be unstable. Be careful before you touch it and bring it back. And he's like, all right, this sounds dangerous. I will do this. Being I would probably say he's probably the veteran here, like one of the elder kind of like leaders of this little group. He's been here since he was young, so I will do this. And maybe when we go after other items, maybe someone can help me. I can see they're busy now. An opportunity for a companion of one of my future TTRPG solo players. Can maybe get a companion from this group of, hooligans. But he's like, I will do this alone. I will go hastily. Shabra, thank you for the advice. Please come and find me if you learn anything more. He's like, okay, yeah, I will. And that's going to end our first scene. Very interesting. Very interesting. So now we're going to move into transition. Now, transition scenes can be total scenes in themselves where you don't need to do a task and an action and everything else like that. A lot of times when I play, actually, my first scene is a transition scene where I kind of just set everything up and then move into where the action's going to be. But I wanted to make a skill check in our first scene here. And also, I tried to do 2 to 5 scenes in every one of my sessions while I'm playing. I feel like it gives us a good time, right? About 40 to an hour and a half of video length. Playtime is usually double or triple that. But usually gives us a good little bit of time. So I'm shuffling up our target cards again, just thinking about what our transition's going to be. And we don't even know what this object is, but we know that it's leaking magic. And I mean, Jet can step out and use his dire form to just turn into a hawk and fly around the city and use a perception to try to see some stuff. Is absolutely what we could do. That's a very good transition scene, but this is a transition scene that is going to require an action. So we're actually going to draw on a target card just to see how difficult this is. Let me shuffle better. All right, 12. So Jet steps out into the city. He starts looking around. Classic shitty shenanigans. A cart goes by. Some oranges fall off of it. He's looking around. I don't think he sees anything directly. We're going to use our dire form ability just because that's awesome. So we're going to cast a spell right here. We have dire form. Call upon your own feral nature to transform yourself into a dire animal, assuming its form and stats for 1d4 rounds. Now to cast a spell in ICRPG, you roll your wisdom stat. And we got to beat a 12. And I think since there's really nothing going on and he turns into hawks all the time, there's no time pressure. He could take his time to do this. He's looking around and gathering himself. We're going to call this an easy roll. So we only got to beat a 9. As a 19, almost a nat 20 twice in a row. That would have been insane. I would have been like, my dice are loaded today. This is wild. So he turns into a hawk and goes right up into the sky. And I think that the hawk continues to assume his gray eyes and his like grayish blonde hair that he has like on his head. I imagine him as he has a little mohawk and like some sideburns as this ICRPG image that I got out of the book when I was making the character. But that's just my imagination. I think each person can imagine his hair in different ways or however they want. I think it's totally fine as long as it continues to have the blonde, apparently. So hawk with blonde mohawk sounds awesome. And now we're going to scan over the city as this hawk, looking for any kind of magical traces or anything that might stick out to us like this affecting this world. And so we're going to roll again. We're going to keep it at a 12. We're just going to see if we can notice anything while we're up here. Well, I mean, actually, we have the sky view. So it really kind of makes sense to make this an easy roll again. So let's go on ahead and do that. And I'm going to roll my orange dice instead this time, just because I can't see. What is that? Is that another 19? What is going on? It absolutely is. Wow. Okay, that's crazy. So we absolutely see something happen. Quickly, let's do us a quick discovery meaning table just to see a little bit of maybe what we see. And here's the crazy thing I'm realizing. I haven't asked a single yes or no question yet. That's wild. 96. Strange. That's a good start. 47. Strange but lacking. Strange but lacking. Strange but lacking. Strange but lacking to me right away kind of says like the city square. Maybe there's like a market, and Jet grew up in the city, so he knows that this market area is usually packed with people. But as he flies above, he can see that it's lacking people. There's almost no one in the market square, which seems strange to him. But I think also he's going to see with his hawk eyes some kind of strange glow in the center of the market. Maybe there's something down there that scared everybody away. So we're going to fly down there and transform back into Jet. Like his wings disappear and his legs pop out and he lands on his feet, which I think is kind of cool. Actually, he's old. This could be a fun comedy moment. Let's roll a dex save to see. We'll call it a 12. That's a 9. So he stumbles a little bit as he, isn't a hawk anymore and he comes down too hot and kind of, and he lands and he's going to look around, and now we're in our next scene. So that was our transition action result, which is weird. We actually did that. So we're at the top of our next scene here. Okay, now in this scene, I think we should start off by asking some questions right away. I want to know if this place is empty or if there is people here. And we're going to call it 50-50, right? Here we go. 33, which is doubles, which means random event. But 33, the lower, if it's under 50, that means yes. So yes, there are people here, but we already established there's not a lot. So there's probably a couple, but we've got random event here. So, which is also a D100 roll chart. Let's actually get us a zoom on that so y'all can see it. Right there we go. We've got a D100 roll chart that we're gonna roll on to see what the heck our random event is. That is a 65, which makes it move away from a thread. So our only thread right now, which I haven't written down, is the broken item that is leaking magic. And what context could we move away from the thread but still keep this story moving forward? This is a fantastic move away from a thread is a fantastic roll if we have more than one thread. With only one, I don't think that's going to help us. I'm trying to think on it. Maybe since there's strange magical glowing here, we think that we've already found the item and we're going to be able to stop it. But maybe this isn't the item. This is just the effect of said item happening here, which makes sense. So we're moving further away. Like we thought we were right at the item ready to go, but turns out actually this is just the effect of it. So there's some kind of strange magical glow happening in the middle of this marketplace, but it's not the item itself. Like the item was used to catch magic, or there's like a pulse of magic that came out of it because it's broken, which scared a bunch of people away. Now, since we got a 33 as well on our yes or no for how many people are here, we're gonna judge that. So the closer it is to 50, the less amount of people are here. And since we're only 10 away, I'm gonna say there's 2 people here. Are either of them injured from this magic? That is a 3 and a 0, so 30. Or what? That's actually 0-3. So extreme, yes. Not like extreme, but yeah, they're pretty dang injured from that. Because I always judge the closer it is to 1, the more yes it is, right? That's the way that I play. So it being a 0-3 means that someone is severely injured from this. There's 2 people here. I'm going to assume that these 2 people are a couple, and one of them is trying to help the other one because the other one is like super injured. We do not have anything to be able to heal anybody. We have a compass that points towards precious stones, a book about geology, a scarf of dragons, which helps us with defense, and our staff. We have no way to heal anybody. We don't even have potions or nothing. But we could try to make a wisdom save to stabilize this person, so then maybe we could talk to them. Let's go on ahead and roll our target card here. We've established our scene. Now we're on to our task. What is... Someone is injured here. Okay, target card 10. That's it? Okay, so that's good. That's real good news for us. So since we are not a healer, I actually want to call this a hard roll. So we give ourselves easy rolls. We're not going to give ourselves a hard roll. We're going to make this a 13 that we have to beat. We're going to make a wisdom check just to try and stabilize this person so we can maybe help them. Because again, Jet is about, just good or bad. He doesn't care about the law. He just like what is right and what is wrong. So he's going to approach, he's going to see these 2 people and he's going to say, hey, it's going to be okay. And the person's like crying and the other person on the ground is just like affected by this magic. I actually want to describe the magic here a little bit because that's also going to help us. And we actually have a magic item descriptions chart that we rolled on before. So we're actually going to roll on that. Before we make our roll, we're going to try to describe what kind of magic is affecting this person. We got a 97. Utility. That doesn't really help us. I'm going to roll again. 20. Curse. So this wasn't like an accident. This was like a purposeful curse. Like we could have got like fire. You know what I mean? Like accidental burning. We could have got like, you know what I mean? Something like that. But we got curse, which is like straight to me like dark magic. Like this person has like purple veins going up their body and their like skin starting to darken and there's like purple in their eyes. They're like pacified. You know what I mean? Like stuck on the ground. In what way could Jet Zinland stabilize this person? We're going to make it a hard roll. We're going to roll on it. If we succeed, we'll see. All right. 2. Yeah, so we fail. So Jet runs over, tries to help. He's like, I can't help you. But what we can do is Jet can call upon an animal friend, his other spell. We can use our supernatural empathy to call an animal from local environments. It's fiercely loyal and communicates with you. So we can communicate with it as well. So we're going to use our wisdom roll. We only got to beat a 10. Try and call an animal. And I'll say why in a second. That's a 17, which is 6. So we call upon an animal. Jet like slams his staff on the ground 3 times. And an animal that has to be local, right? We're in a city. Maybe there's a dog. He calls upon a dog. He like barks a little bit out loud, because he has to call for it. And the animal comes running up and he looks down at this animal and he's like, I need you to go and get help. I have to chase after this magic. But you, go and get help to help this person. Quickly now. And the dog barks and runs off, right? So he's trying to inadvertently, asynchronously help this person the best that he can. And he's like, help is on the way. And then he's going to stand up and he's going to look at this magical pulse. Do we see any kind of trail coming off of this magical pulse? Because maybe the magic was cast and then the person ran with it. And maybe we can see a little bit of this, what's happening here. Do we see any of that? 50-50, right? So that is a 43. So yes, we can see something. It's a little bit of a trail because we're close to that 50. So there's like a little bit of and I also imagine the magical pulse is like big purple, like, and obviously it hit this person, scared everybody away. And now there's like just a little trail going down like an alleyway is what I'm going to go ahead and assume here. And that's going to be our next transition. Right? We need action result. That's our transition. So we see this magical pulse going and we're going to run after it now. This person's going to be saved. We're running after this thing. I think after we save these people, I definitely think it might be fun to talk to them a little bit. You know what I mean? Meet some more people in the city, maybe get some more threads going on now that we help this person. It'll help our story a lot to kind of like, kind of get more people involved, have some folks to talk to and stuff. Because right now we only have one main NPC, which if you're playing with Mythic, absolutely write down all of your characters on a sheet so you can roll on them and stuff like that. All we know is Shabra. So either way, we're just going to move forward though. And that's going to end our second scene right there. We're moving into transition. So Jed is chasing this magical trail. He's running down this alleyway. He's kind of elder, but he's an elder elf. I feel like elder elves are still a little bit agile. And he knows the city, grew up here. He's jumping over like bags of trash and puddles and stuff, skimming through this alleyway, which is going to bring us to the top of our next scene. As we reach the end of this next alleyway, we must ask, what do we see at the end of this alleyway? My big time question right now is, did someone accidentally stumble into this? Did someone steal this item and throw it onto someone else and now they're just struggling with it? Or is this one of the actual people who stole said item who now is just like messed up because the item is broken and it's not what they thought it was? And so we have some figuring out to do here at the end of this alleyway. Are they even here is another really big question. I'm assuming they are though, because that person just got zapped with the magic, right? So they couldn't have gone far. So as Jed Zinlan approaches the end of this alleyway, my brain is already picturing that it opens up into like a walled in kind of area where someone might have a little hideout, like a safe place of some kind. Like there are buildings all the way around, so it's just like a big open square. It's already what my mind is picturing as he approaches. So we're going to go ahead and just roll with that. Sometimes whenever you play solo, you need to make executive decisions. I think this is one of those. Whenever your mind already has an idea of something, go on ahead and feel free to roll with. But now as we're in our scene for our solo game loop here, we're in scene, we know where we are, but what do we notice? Who else is here? What's going on? So let's go on ahead and roll on our discovery meaning table. We're just gonna do the general one right here. And roll. That's an 80. 80 is official. 31. Official but fragrant. What? Okay, so fragrant to me as we approach, there's like flowers and plants in this area, which is really good for Jet because Jet is a druid. I don't know if I mentioned it actually. One of the things we agreed on whenever I randomly rolled up this character was that one of the items he had is a magical staff. In my character sheet, I just have it as green staff, which in ICRPG gives me 3 spells. But this magical green staff, once a day, can be used to cast entanglement. So we do have that, and that's good that we're around all these plants because that means we could use entanglement if we want to. Official though, I guess we can ask some yes or no questions. The only thing that comes to mind whenever I think official is like a guard, an official person, right? It's the only thing that comes to mind to me. So is this a guard of the city? Yes or no? 50-50. That's a 55, which means no, barely no. So probably maybe this person was a guard at one point, but no longer is. But on 55, on a yes or no question, that means we get a random event. So we're gonna roll on a random event roll chart right here. We got 49, NPC positive. NPC positive. The only other NPC right now, since we're asking questions about this guard, it would be him. So what if on an NPC positive, sheesh, what if it's not a positive thing that happens? Maybe it is a positive thing that happens to him. Maybe we walk in, this person in this like grove of plants and stuff is like, this is like where they've been staying. This is like their little hideout, right? They have this item in their hands and they can't there's something bad happening to them with this item because it's broken, right? It's messed up. We don't know what kind of item it is yet, but maybe they finally let go of it. This is their positive positive. They let go of the item and drop it on the ground and take a couple steps back. And they're like standing next to Jet as we enter into this area. And Jet looks at him and he's like, what's going on? And the person just points at the item as it hits the ground. And then in my mind, as it hits the ground, it starts to like levitate and it's like pulsing this like magical energy out of it. So that's our little random event there, which kind of helps us out a little bit more with this character. And Jet turns to him for sure. He's like, why have you done this? And is it a male character? That's an 18. So yes, he's like, I'm sorry, I didn't think it would be like this. I didn't think it's not what I wanted at all. And Jet's like, it's fine. You know that you did wrong, and I'm all about right and wrong. For now, we need to stop this thing before it gets any worse. And he's gonna point right at it. So now we've come down to our task. What stands in our way? That's the point of the scene that we're in. This magical energy, this object is obviously the threat. So we need to find a way to contain it. But before we can figure out how to contain it, we need to figure out what the heck it is, right? We already know that it pulses out energy. So to look at all my roll charts here. So we have a meaning, tables, elements, objects right here. Objects. And I guess we can roll on this and then use this objects. We'll see what we can figure out here. It is a 56. Liquid. Again? We got liquid at the very beginning, didn't we? Liquid. Maybe it's something that holds liquid. Maybe the object itself was just cursed. Maybe the object wasn't broken. Maybe the object was cursed. Maybe it holds liquid. Maybe it's just like an endless flagon. You know, like a magical flagon item that can endlessly just pour out liquid. I mean, those are like classic magical items in the world, right? So maybe that's it. And maybe this guy was a guard, got fired, so now he's homeless. He's living in this grove. He's got all these plants. He wants to be able to water and take care of his plants. He was thinking if he could get this flagon thing, he could water all of his plants, keep everything going. But the flagon is cursed. It's broken. How did this curse get there? This is, if we go this direction, this is a huge threat. These mundane magical items that the museum has been holding on to now have curses on them. Why? I got a lot of notes to take. Hold on. So, if it's cursed, that's a big thread. I'm gonna have to add it into our lists so the other players know. Because if this common mundane item had a curse put on it, that is a thread that we're gonna have to trace and track down. Maybe all of these items could be common that now have big old curses on them. Maybe that's what friggin' Shabra was hiding from us. That it's not an item that's broken, it's cursed. She was hiding that from us. So I no longer trust Shabra, personally. But this moves us on to our next step here. What is our action, okay? How do we get this flagon safely? Is there anything around us that might help us? We need a target number. So we're gonna roll perception. 15, okay. Perception is intelligence bonus, right? I can't see what that is. What is that? It's a 14, that's a 15, because we got our +1, so we meet it. So we look around, we can see all different kinds of stuff. Out of everything that's here, is there anything that we see that can help us? Let's roll D100. Yes or no? I'm gonna call it 50-50. That's an 81. No, there's nothing that can help us. That kind of puts a stop. I shouldn't have asked that question. That puts a stop right in our system here. But that means that we have to do it ourselves. Maybe there isn't anything around. Maybe Jet has to ask for help from this person. Maybe we need more to do with this person. We turn to the person, we say, do you have anything? Do you have anything here that can get it? I don't want to touch it. I fear what it's going to do. And what might he have? Let's roll description. That's a 20, or a 02, that's a 2. Artificial, something artificial. He made something. Something he made, maybe for his garden. This guy made something for his garden, maybe that he was gonna use with it. Maybe it's like I imagine like a bucket for carrying water over here every day to water his plants. Maybe, but he had to have built it out somehow, because this is artificial. So maybe it has like extra hooks. Maybe it has like a rope and like a hook on it. So he just hands it to Jet, and Jet has a bucket with a rope, and he's like, oh. There's like a crazy magical thing in front of him. All he's gotta do is he's gotta swing it around. He's gotta get the magical flagon inside of this bucket. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna start a little bit of initiative, right? We're gonna go first, and then we're gonna let the item pulse or do whatever it's gonna do if we fail, and then we'll let the guy go, and then we'll go, and then the item again. We're gonna do it like that, right? It's gonna move our initiative. So we're each gonna be able to take one action. So we're gonna swing this bucket around. We're gonna call it a dex roll, I guess. A bucket with a rope on it. We're gonna need something, okay? The Molten Talon is gonna have to give us something to be able to get these items back, because this is crazy. We're gonna have to make something or whatever. Maybe there's an artificer we can get as a companion. Yeah, future shout out episode. 15. Would this be a hard roll? This would probably be a hard roll. No, I think it's just a bucket. We're gonna call it a 15. We got a +2 on our dex here. If we can swing it around and get it, that'd be sick. Let's try. That is a 3, which means we got a 5, so we swing and a miss. And we could use effort values if we actually hit this thing, because this would be like a basic item, but we're not really damaging it, we're just trying to capture it. But what we are going to say is that energy and magic, this thing is going to then pulse outwards at both me and this guy, who maybe we can learn more about. And I think since we have our target number, I actually want to roll on the target number for the flagon itself using this magical pulse to see how well it goes. This could help us, or this could make it a lot worse. Like if we get a nat 20, this is going to be a lot worse. Okay, here we go. The magical pulse. Does it successfully use it? That is a natural 1. That is a natural 1. That is really good for us. So it tries to pulse outwards to stop us from capturing it. I don't think it's sentient. Maybe it doesn't know what it's doing, but it's just cursed. And so like maybe we could just see that this is going to happen. And then instead it like runs out of energy. Maybe it falls down to the ground. This is a nat 1, right? So it's like out of energy and it falls down, it clinks on the ground. And then the guy's like, hurry, get it. Says some words of encouragement to Jet, which will then help him. He's going to go over and he's going to scoop the thing up in the bucket. Do we need to roll for this? We can make it an easy roll. We can give him a D4 extra from the encouragement from the other guy. He's just got to beat a 12. And we'll do it with Dex. This is kind of serving as a yes or no question as well to see how well it goes. That's a dirty 20 plus 2, that's a 22. So he scoops this thing up. There has to be like a lid to this bucket somewhere or something, right? So he's going to slam the lid on this thing and he's going to shut it tight and he's going to hold it. And I think that is our end result there. At which point he's going to turn to this man and he's going to interrogate him. We have to know more. I want to see how well Jet is at interrogating this man. We're going to do just an overall charisma check. We got a +1. Since we just saved his life, we'll call it an easy roll. We got to beat a 12. What is that? I can't see that. We have a +1. That's an 11 + 1 is 12. Okay, so decent. So he'll answer our questions. Why did you do this? He's like, yeah, I used to work as a guard and I fucked up and I got fired and like now I'm just surviving. And when did he steal it himself or was it just given to him? I'm gonna call it extremely likely that this was given to him because that makes our story way more fun. That is an 84. Likely is 75 and under. Extremely likely is 90 and under. So we're going to say yes. Maybe it wasn't given to him. Maybe he bought it because it's so far close that he bought it. He's going to say that he bought it from someone who was selling black market items last night. And when he came across it, he thought it was awesome. He bought it from the friggin' market. They were just there. He bought it from the market. And then when he had it in his hands, everything was all messed up. So he ran in here. He didn't know what he was doing. He straight up confesses that he bought this thing, but he didn't steal it. So that's just a thread closed. But I think Jet's like, all right, man, look, you've been affected by this magic though. Jet wouldn't say man, but he's like, all right, you've been affected by this magic. I'm gonna have to take you back to the museum with me. We're gonna have to keep you there, hold you there and watch you to make sure you're okay. And the guy's like, okay, I mean, if you have to. And that's gonna end our scene. So we're gonna move into our transition scene where these two guys are then walking back through the town to get back to the museum. And while we're passing by, do we see I'm gonna call it likely, 75 or under. Was that lady saved? Did help come? It's a 39. I thought it was a 93. I was about to be like, what? It's a 39. So they did come. So we can see that she is getting help from, some kind of maester or something from the city who is helping her. And I think she's sitting up. Maybe she's still big time affected by this curse. And I think Jet turns to the guy and he's like, that could have been you. You got to be careful. And he's like, I know, I didn't mean to hurt her. I'm so sorry. He's like, it's not your fault. And I think they just keep going because they don't want to get involved in this scene. Jet's got his own agenda. And we're going to get back to the museum and we're going to walk in. And this is going to be our closing scene here for the day. As Jet walks in, he's greeted by Shabra. He can see that all the items have been put away in boxes in the back, so the whole museum public area is empty. There are pedestals and display cases that have nothing in them. And as we walk through, I think right away Shabra's like, who's this? And Jet explains what happened. But then as he starts explaining and saying that this common infinite flagon was completely cursed, I think Shabra's like, yes, I'm sorry I didn't tell you. I did told you it was broken and not to touch it, but I'm sorry I didn't tell you it was cursed. We have reason to believe that, yes, some of the items that were taken have curses on them. There's even a possibility that some of the items still in our possession are cursed, and we don't know when this happened. So it's going to confirm that for our story, and Jet's going to be like, okay, well, we're going to have to figure out who cursed them, who stole them, and distributed them out into the world. Things are going to get bad if we don't solve this issue and get all these items back to the museum as soon as possible. And Shabra's like, yes. And I think she introduces herself to this guy who, since I made this NPC in my episode, I'm going to have to name him and stat him out because who knows, this old guard. Let's do some quick rolls here. I have Table Fables in front of me here, just like I said previously. If you wanted some assistance for some quick stuff, this is what we're going to use. So this character's species is a 7. This guy's a halfling who used to be a guard. He's a male. We already figured that out. What is their age? That's a 1. We can't do infant, obviously, so we'll say that they're a young adult in age. They're homeless, but they're a young adult. And a 4. They are impolite, but they were pretty welcoming. So they're welcoming and polite. I'm going to say that their class was a warrior because they used to be a guard. It's a halfling. But now what we're going to do is we're going to figure out their name, their character name. We're going to roll a D100 because that's the most important one. That is a 10. They are Belgrim. Belgrim, the halfling warrior who used to be a guard. And now Belgrim is now in the custody of the Molten Talon. Shabra rewards Jet on a successful mission, and they're going to finish this day, this night, by going over some of the items that they've lost. I don't want to say that they know all of them that are missing yet. Maybe they're still taking inventory, but they have found some that are missing, and they're going to go over everything that's happened so far, the curses and everything else like that, etc. And they're going to do it in the back room of the museum, late into the night, cataloging everything, figuring everything out. And that's where we're going to end our episode. So, when Soloist Venture starts their episode next week, hope you're following along, they can start in the morning with a new item. They can start wherever they want. They can do a huge time jump if they want to. It is totally up to Soloist Venture wherever they want to start their next session. Doesn't have to be in this room right when they wake up the next day. It can be however or wherever they want. As long as it's with this character and this story of finding these items. That's literally the only thing. And that's going to continue on for everybody. However one person ends their episode, they can do time jumps. They can start in different places. Like, for example, maybe an item was tracked to a dungeon and we could start in front of that dungeon. If someone wants to do a dungeon crawl, it doesn't matter. But here's the deal. This is very exciting and very cool. This is the first episode of the Solo Relay. I want to remind everybody that down in the description, there are links to all 10 of the creators that are on this project. There will also be a playlist that will have all the episodes in order from everyone's different channel. It'll be linked down there. All right. I hope you follow along, and I hope it's going to be fun. This is a big time experiment, and I hope it goes well. I have high hopes, because if it does, next year we're going to come back with some more creators, and we're going to do it again. Remember, if you're coming from my channel and you're going to go over to those guys' channel, make sure to show them some Couch Crew love. All right, hit the subscribe button over there and spread the love, because I truly believe that a rising tide raises all ships, and everybody on this project is honestly really creative and fun and awesome in their own unique and inspirational ways. So make sure to show them some love. My friends, I have been Turk from the Grouch Couch. I'll see you next time. Take a seat on the couch and roll initiative, at least until you find yourself tracking down a cursed flagon yourself. Roll on that, weirdos, and I'll see you next time. A toodaloo.